before we start, we're rolling, but I'll probably
Yeah, I gotcha.
Like, how do you say your full name?
Oh, gotcha. Micah, then Diele.
Micah Diele. Okay.
Yeah, like Diele, like Italian, basically. No, it's okay. When I was re-listening to my intro to your podcast, I was like, "Am I saying his name right?"
No, you actually you're one of the few that said my last name like
Hooford,
correctly. Hooford,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's like how it's spelled, but you almost think that it's gonna be different.
Yeah, no, because like people used to say who farted, and then the joke was who farted.
Yeah.
Like, wow, my dad was getting that in the 70s, so that's not really original.
Yeah.
But
Dallas Hooford.
Yeah, Dallas Hooford.
It almost seems like I was like, is this like it? I feel like I'm pronouncing it wrong. Because then, like when I was re-listening to it, I was like, "Is his name Hooford?" Like that kind of sounds like it just sounds like wrong to me though. When I was like listening back to it, I was like, I don't even know if that's right. And it was already when I posted it. I'm like, whatever. Hopefully it is.
It's already out there. Oh damn, that's funny. It's funny because that's like what we do. It's like you see shit and you're just like, fuck, it's already on.
Yeah, it's like whatever, dude. Like.
Mulberry.
Yeah. This is episode 48 of the Mulberry podcast. I have
48.
Well, we've only met. This is the second time meeting. I was like, this is a good friend of mine.
Yeah, it feels like it, man.
Honestly.
And you're just moving away from me already.
Now you're giving me shit, too. This is Micah Diele.
Diele de pasta.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. This is my second other podcast I've been on, but I like being the guest spot a lot more, let me tell you.
Watching me set up, not even being prepared for this shit. Like I literally told you yesterday, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, this is try two. I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's funny, dude. Well, how you been, dude?
Dude, I've been good. So you live on, I mean, can I live out where you live?
Oh, yeah, dude.
Okay,
so I'm not going to live here.
Yeah, exactly. So you live on Chablis Lane in Atwater, and it's funny because when I was coming over here, I started remembering a story. So I used to live like 5 houses down from you. And honestly, I think I have a vague memory of, because you were in high school when I lived over there.
Right.
I feel like were you always outside like playing sports? Because I remember me and my dad would be like, man, the house, the kids are always outside playing. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, yeah, they are. And I just remember saying that. But back to my story. So it was like 2012, 2013, and when we lived over there, and my buddy came over, and I used to work at Five Corner Starbucks right here.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm going to go to Starbucks, get something to drink. And so me and my buddy get in the car, and as we're like outside, this pit bull's like running around. And I'm like, oh, whatever. Like, this is a random dog. I was like, I just called it in my car, like, hey, come on, I want to go for a ride. And like, it just hopped in my car. So I took it to Starbucks, got it like a puppuccino, and I was just like hanging out. I posted it, this is like Instagram early days, and I posted it on my Instagram, and I said, is this my dog? Nope. Do I know whose dog this is? Nope. And like, that was it. And I just posted a picture of me and the dog and my friend, and with our Starbucks. And then I come back home, I let the dog, like, I let it hang out in my house for a while. Then I just let it go out the front yard. And I'm like, all right, see you later, dog, whatever. Meanwhile, like a day later, I get someone sends me this Facebook post, and it was just like, alert. It was like 2 darker males lured my dog into their car and stole him like in front of my house. And I was like, first off, I'm your neighbor. Like, if you don't know who I am by now.
Come over.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? And so like they had this giant Facebook post, like, I've already called the police and authorities, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what the hell? And then like the person who sent me like the update, and it was just like, update, dog was returned, like the burglars must have been scared. Like, what? But I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm your neighbor. I was more pissed off that like you didn't know that I had like been living next to you for 2 years than
right.
And the fact that
and he called you a darker male.
Yeah. And it's me and my other friend, and like we're both like, I mean, like, we're white, but we're darker white, like, you know what I mean? Like, but it was just like 2 darker males. I'm like, you just had to put that, huh?
That definitely sounds like something that would happen on Chablis.
Yeah. This is Chablis. Aren't all these like wine names? Isn't it like Chardonnay, Chablis?
Yeah.
Like,
so you already know.
Yeah, you're white people.
Yeah, so you're like,
we don't got no Hennessy, Cora. Just
you're like half white, so you're a dark male.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's funny, dude. Man, I wonder who that is. I bet you they still live back
I bet
there,
you they
too.
do. Yeah, it's I think we lived on 3081, and so it's whoever's our next door neighbor across the street.
Right. Your street was Chablis as well.
Yeah, it's this one. It's literally this right here. Like,
yeah, I know, but like I didn't know. Like,
oh yeah, so the Chablis goes like in curves all the way,
okay.
and I think this half is a different street.
Yeah, it's fucking weird back here. I don't know, dude. It used to just be all old people, and then they all died,
And then all the new wave came in, huh?
Yeah. So now
New
it's
wave of white people.
Yeah. Well, shit, dude. That's crazy, dude. I've been here since I was like, I don't know, first grade.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why when you texted me, they're like, "Oh, here's my address." I was like, "No way, dude. I used to live like here. I was your neighbor, man."
For real, maybe that's how we know each other.
That's why we get along so well.
So you do a lot of like photography, videography.
Yeah.
I just saw your one that like Emmer said that you did.
Oh, the Bear Creek one.
Yeah. Do you have like what is that, like a drone or something?
Yeah, I got a little drone,
Okay.
and I buy everything off Facebook Marketplace, man. Like that's my go-to place.
Okay, nice.
Cause like I got my drone there, I got my camera there, got a whole bunch of stuff, and so I got into photography, videography like 2.5 years ago, basically now, and it was in.
So it hasn't been that long?
It hasn't been that long. I've always been into video and video editing. Like when I was in high school, me and my buddy used to make skits every single week. And so in high school, we'd post them. And then like it got to the point where it's like, you know, we would kind of burn ourselves out because we made this like every single week we have to shoot, edit, and post like a video. And then I remember telling my parents, and I was like, yeah, I really want to do video editing. And then they kind of like detoured me from
For real?
Yeah, it's because my sister at the time had like gone to like an art institute, and then she had like come back home, and then so I think they were just like, no, you don't need to go to.
Oh, so she kind of ruined it for you.
Yeah, but it's okay because I'm glad the way that things ended up rolling
Right.
out, you know.
Yeah.
And so in 2019, my buddy Jimmy, I saw this ad for this dream job competition, and it was like, make a video about your dream job. And mine was like, I don't know, I'm gonna go interview park rangers and shit. It was just like I want $100,000, so I'm gonna try to make this video. So I hit up my buddy Jimmy, and he was doing videography at the time, and he pretty much just made my vision come to life. And since then, I've just been submerging myself in it. And so that was 2019. We made this. It was called Day Job to Dream Job Promotion, and I'll send it to you afterwards. It's a pretty good video. And so we made that one, and then ever since then, we've just rocking together, just been doing stuff, and we try to go the YouTube route and make our own like nature show. And then we tried to we're like, okay, that's not like viable. Like, what's a viable way to make it money? And then we started doing weddings and commercial work, and now we do music videos, everything. Pretty much doesn't matter what it is. We just do any type of video work. And then photography wise, it's like, I liked photography as a hobby, and I will do it to get paid, but I don't promote myself that way.
Okay.
Just because it's like, listen, if you want me to do it, you see my work, I'll do it, but I'm not gonna, like, I don't want to be a wedding photographer.
Right.
Just because, yeah, too much responsibility.
Dude, especially for a wedding.
Yeah,
What's
I
up?
am doing one this weekend also.
You're like talking shit up. Oh yeah, by the way.
No, do you know who Dalton Jeffries is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just had him on my podcast right before you.
Nice, man. Yeah.
And so I had him on my podcast, and then I did his dad's wedding, and his dad just recently got remarried, and his mom's getting remarried 2 weekends later, which is this weekend. And so I'm doing both his parents' weddings. It's like so random to me, but I'm like, whatever, I'll do them. Like,
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I've known Dalton since we were little. Played baseball.
yeah, exactly. That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, most
Small
people.
town.
Yeah, exactly. So I just had him on my podcast before he went out to Arizona for his off-season
Yeah.
work and stuff like that. But
Dude, that's funny, dude. How'd that happen? Like, so did you book both of them like the same time?
and I was so confused when I was booking him because Dalton hit me up and was like, "Hey, my mom's getting married. Can you like take pictures at the wedding?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem." And then I get somebody else hitting me up, and they're like, "Hey, it's with the Jeffries. I'm getting I want to schedule you for the wedding." And I was like, "Yeah, I already got you. Like, I've already scheduled this. What are you talking about?" And then then I was like confused, and I called my mom. And I was like, my mom was like, "Hey, someone should be reaching out to you about Jeffrey's wedding." I'm like, "Yeah, they already did. I'm so confused." And she was like, "Oh no, like the mom and dad are getting married like 2 weeks apart, and like they both reached out to me to do their wedding photography." So it was just like a small world type of thing. When I was just like, "Yeah, I'll do both, whatever."
You're
Like,
probably like super confused. Like, yeah, I already booked it.
yeah, exactly. I was like, I've already done this.
That's funny. So what were you doing like like what did like your childhood consist of and stuff like
I always
growing up?
I lived in McSwain area, so I always explain it as kind of like a white picket fence neighborhood, you know, like for people who don't know what it is, like it didn't.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I grew up there, played baseball, a whole bunch of sports growing up, just like everybody else, and then went to Buhack, and then Buhack, I played golf and water polo.
Nice.
And so I just did those two things growing up. I had to break my dad's heart, tell him I didn't want to play baseball in high school, you know?
Yeah.
Because like he was like Little League, always my coach every single time. I like baseball, but I just didn't like it that much. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't my life. But so then I ended up doing golf, and it was best sport you could ever do in high school. You guys, especially like we were back on block schedule at BUHAC, so we only had like 3 classes at a time, and then your fourth was your sport. So we'd get off at like 12:20. And then just walk to the golf course, yeah, for like till like 2:00. And then
you had like an old man schedule in high school.
Yeah, exactly, for like every single year too. It was the best. So I did that, and then after that, kind of probably how like a lot of people, like I feel like when we were, or at least when I was in high school, it was like they only started talking about college like your senior year. They weren't like prepping you like maybe you should think about this. It was just like senior year, like, oh yeah, I probably apply to some colleges and stuff. I'm like, I haven't been preparing for this. Like, what are you talking about?
They should tell you way sooner. Yeah. Like that's like a year process.
Yeah.
They want you to apply. Like,
yeah. They're like telling me, oh, you should probably apply in the next couple months. But I applied to a couple schools. I got into like UC Merced, Fresno State, and then I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. I guess not video. You know, I'm just kidding. So then what did I do? So then I went to Merced College, and I was like majoring in history. Majored in I don't know what I want to major in, so I'm going to major in everything. So it's like history, anthropology, business, accounting. Literally changed my major so many times. And so I ended up transferring to Stanislaus to major in history. And when I got there, I was like, oh, I do not like history. Like, it's just a writing class. That's all it is. And so like I was like, no, I don't want to do this one. Back to the JC. And then I got my AA in business. And so that was, useful. And then after that, I transferred because Starbucks at that time was paying for your school at Arizona State University, all online. So I have a degree from like Arizona State University. It doesn't say anything about like online, but like I did all my classes online. So that was pretty.
And Starbucks paid for it?
Yeah, Starbucks paid for it.
Oh,
and
nice.
Yeah, and so I was going to do.
Why is that a thing? Hold on.
Because they care. Because Starbucks does this shit, dude, where it's like, hey, we care about our employees. We're not going to pay them that much, but we'll offer free school. We're not going to pay them that much, but we'll.
Here's Spotify.
Here's Spotify for the year. We're not going to pay them that much, but here's some health care. And I think that's what they do. It's like the loophole to paying their employees good is that we're going to offer all these other benefits. And so, granted, like, working at Starbucks when I was working there, like, of course, like, you hate whatever type of entry-level job it is, but it's a better entry-level job at the same time. So I can't like complain too much. Like, they gave me my schooling out of it, but at the same time, it's like, I know what you're doing. You guys are. So I did that, and I was majoring in business and sustainability, and then you had to take a calculus class online, and I'm not good at math at all. And like it would be one thing if I could like have my friend, because my friend was a math major, and so I was like, oh, going into this, like I'll just have him take all my tests, like it'll be fine, you know.
No worries.
Yeah, and then they started doing this thing where it's like I had to like have like my picture taken, and the people when I was testing would watch me like the whole entire time, and I'm like, oh, I can't pass this, so I switched my major to. Well, it's just like if it was in class, yeah, I could learn. But
did you not even try?
No, I did like 3 weeks, and then I was like, but quarter system is like 3 weeks. We're almost like halfway through the whole class, and I was like, during my first test, I was like, there's no way, like I don't know at all like any of this, and so changed it to educational studies, and that was just whatever. As you could say, yeah, here we are again having the same conversation we had on my podcast, but.
There's probably going to be a slight overlap.
Yeah, a slight overlap.
Right.
They're pretty, they're going to be like, is this the same day?
But we should have worn the same clothes.
I know, so it's like same episode. But then majored in educational studies. And with that, I was like, oh, I want to be a teacher. And that kind of allowed me to have the loophole of maybe I don't have a major in business or history or anything. But with teaching, you only need a bachelor's degree in anything. And then as long as you pass whatever your specific test is, you can teach that subject.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And that's what I was going to do. So I graduated in 2019 spring. And then I took a road trip with my fiance, like classic, I graduate college. What the fuck do I do now? And so we just took a trip, kind of made this little video, and it kind of reminded me of like, oh, I really like video and stuff. And then instantly after that, I saw that Dream Job video contest, and then kind of just was that point in my life where I'm like, well, what do I want to do? And it was just like, well, might as well try to do what I want to do now, while I'm 26 years old at the time. You know what I mean? And so I'm 28 now. And so I'm just glad I took that little leap of faith, because I took that leap of faith and then the pandemic hit, and then it really allows me to submerge myself into photography and videography. And I was like 6 months into photography, videography, and I'm like shooting my first wedding. And I remember like, I'm always the king of throw yourself into an uncomfortable situation and just figure it out, because you're either going to grow or you're going to diminish yourself. Sink or swim. Yeah. So I that's what I've been doing. And then at the end of 2020, it's kind of like grounding myself, figuring out what I wanted. And one of the things I've always talked about was starting a podcast. And so it was like the end of 2020, and I had been talking about it with my buddy, like, okay, what do I want to do? And it was like, literally, I was talking to him, telling him I think I want to do this. And like, while I was talking to him, I just like bought basically what I thought I needed for the podcast. Little did I know I was going to return hella shit to Amazon and buy new stuff. But I just bought everything, like, because I knew if I don't spend money on it, I'm not going to feel the need to actually do the podcast. So I just like spent like $300 right there. And I was like, I guess I'm doing a podcast. And it was supposed to be called Trail Talks and whatnot. And then I realized hiking is a very small niche, you know what I mean? And I didn't want to just talk about hiking. So it ended up being called Real Talk and whatnot. Shout out to my buddy Jimmy for that. And it just basically highlights the talented individuals within the Central Valley of California and the people in general who are passionate about what they do. And the Central Valley is just so underrepresented and gets a bad rep. And I think growing up here, you can always, you see that everywhere, whether it's high school, junior high, even in college, just like everyone has something bad to say about it. But it's also a gray area. We're 2 hours away from everything. We have the UC. It's slowly becoming like the transformation in the Central Valley the past 10 years looks completely different than what it looked like, you know what I mean, prior to that. Definitely. And so I'm just glad to be a part of it. I kind of want to just put on for the city, put on the talented people, whoever's trying to do stuff out there. And that's where we are today.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Putting on, man.
Putting on.
The young Jeezy of Atwater.
Put it on for my city, man.
Dude, that's awesome, man. So when you started, when you initially like were making those videos back in high school, like whose idea was that?
That was me and my buddy Josh. So we
just like chilling one day, like,
yeah.
What was like your first video? Like, what were you guys doing?
It was called Magic Hula Hoop, and it was like it was a video, and it was like, imagine I have a hula hoop, and if I drop it on me, and then I would cut it, right? I would cut the camera scene, and so I would disappear when it hit the ground. Okay. And so that was like the premise of it. And so like I dropped it on me, and then I would disappear, and then it would go to a new scene of him dropping it somewhere, and he would disappear, and that's all it was. It was just that simple thing. And then as like the time progressed, we got more and more complex. It was like this whole, we had like so many different ones. It was like how to pick up a chick, and it's like my buddy Josh having a hard time picking up a chick. I'm like, bro, it's easy. And I'm like, up to this chick, and she's just instantly like all over me. But it's just like stupid like videos at the time of YouTube videos, like early YouTube videos. Like think of that. That's like all it was. It was skits.
Those are the coolest.
Yeah, exactly. And so I wish we still had them, but my buddy, he just
you don't have them no more.
No, dude, he deleted them, and he was in control of the YouTube channel, which I wish I would have been, since I would have never deleted them. But
okay, at least like archived them. I think.
Yeah, I know.
Made them private.
That's what I was trying to tell him, but it is what it. Only one that's left is Magic Hula Hoop. All the other ones were it was just funny skit videos basically, and that's what we started with, like typical. Because when we were in high school, YouTube was not what YouTube is now. You know what I mean? It was still like Logan Paul and Jake Paul were just emerging themselves, in YouTube. So it was just different time.
Well, it's crazy how fast all that changed, like social media. Like I remember Instagram was so simple back then.
Yeah, it really was.
Or even Twitter was like you could like cyberbully and shit.
Like, yeah, I remember Instagram was around my senior year, but no one used it. Like I was still in high school when no one had social media, and then it's crazy to think like a few years later, everybody had smartphones. Like when I was in high school, we didn't have smartphones. Like the first iPhone barely came out like my junior or senior year. Yeah. And there was still no social media besides Facebook.
Yeah, that was like the first. Well, MySpace was like
MySpace was the first, but then Facebook started getting popular like towards my end of my junior senior year, and then after that, that's when everything started.
Yeah, because I got my first iPhone when I graduated high school. Like. Yeah,
exactly. It was around that time.
Yeah.
And that's when Instagram started becoming a thing and everything.
Yeah.
And it's funny because one of my first pictures on Instagram is like, there was this like filter way back in the day that like made me look old. And I was like, it's just like, hello, I'm Micah, I'm new here. That's literally what I posted. But it's funny to like look back, because then like 10 years later coming around, the old person filters like got popular again and all this other stuff. And it's just like funny to think like that's been around.
It's all
just
recycled.
Yeah, just recycled shit.
Yeah, that's funny, man. So when you were playing sports, you said your dad was your coach.
Yeah.
How was that? Like, was he pretty hard on you, or was he?
Oh
pretty
no, he was a very he just wanted me to like be into baseball, I think. And so he was always just rooting for me. But there was one specific year I remember where he made me play on 2 baseball leagues, and he was the coach on both of them. And it was just like a summer where I had to do like double headers, like it was like 2 for this league and then 2 for this league. And I was just like, I remember one time he was just like, I was just like, I don't want to play another game. And he was just like, hey, like, I know, but like, we made this commitment, we got to do it. And other than that though, like, it was a great time always.
Yeah.
Atwater Little League, AYB, just the whole shebang of Atwater, because I was from McSwain, so always there. And then he was never like too hard on me or anything. It was always good fun. You know what I mean?
I just thought it was funny because I didn't play baseball in high school either, and like, my dad loves baseball too, so he was like,
"Oh, I felt like
kind of disappointed."
Stabbed them in their heart when we told them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I remember I told my mom that I was like, "Hey, like, I don't really want to play baseball." She was like, "Hey, I don't care, but you have to tell your father." I was like, "Damn."
Yeah, have fun with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he kind of had a hard time. I mean, not really. Because I played football and like did track and stuff, and then my brother, he played water polo and swam, so that was like totally different from like what he's used to, like in the sports world.
And he had to kind of relearn sports, or
yeah. Well, he at first he's like, I think he just like didn't like that stuff, like didn't want to go to the games, or like, I mean, he went,
yeah.
Because he just wanted him to play football and stuff. But then
a freaking water fairy on my hands.
Yeah, like cello. Yeah, just that old school like trash, throwing like kids in trash cans in high school, like type stuff. But
what are you doing?
He actually really liked it. He actually grew to like enjoyed watching.
Yeah, because you're learning a sport for the first time almost. You're like, why is the ref calling that? Or like it kind of gives him a reason to like learn some more stuff about sports.
Right. And then and then it's super competitive, and then my dad just like a competitive person, so like I think that's what keeps him interested. And
was he always like yelling at your games and stuff, or no?
I could hear him up there sometimes, yeah, but not like. There was a couple times where like during the football games, if something like happened where it was stupid, like he would be pissed off. Up there, like, like, what the fuck,
like, hey, Dad, it's a high school game.
Yeah, but no, I was just curious because. Just how that was, because my dad would like coach me and stuff too, but because it you actually obviously had your own thing that you like to do, like you make the videos and stuff, and then that's like kind of what you do now.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of funny to think that like my hobby back then is like what my job is now, and so like yeah, it is interesting to me to think that way, and I never have actually thought about it that way, because it was my hobby back then, and now it's my hobby and my career now. But it's cool to look at it that way, honestly. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Well, because when we had talked on your podcast about like, well, I had brought up like sports and stuff, and how people get so submerged in just that, and like how short-lived that is, and a lot of people just get done with that, and they don't have any idea what to do with anything. Like obviously with school, like you're right, like the colleges or the high schools were like, hey, like you should probably like these are where you can apply. And then they kind of just gave you a chart of like, they base it off of like no degree, this is how much you make on average. AA, and like kind of goes up, and that was really like their selling point. It was like the money. Versus like, what do you actually want to do? Yeah,
and I think our society is in such a place that it's all about money and degrees and using the system that's been put in place, and not a lot of encouragement to do what you want to do. And I think that's like, you could go through the full system like I did or like you did, but at the end of the day, it's like the question is like, what do you want though? And like for me, it was just like, oh, I don't want to be a teacher necessarily right now. It's not, and I feel like I could want to be a teacher in the future with photography, videography, but for some reason they're not offering those type of classes. They offer photography class, but they don't do a whole like videography and media, and some schools do, but not all of them do.
Yeah, it's not basic like like school, like public school, is pretty like just narrow.
And it's like, hey, you guys should be focusing your attention on like trade schools and on other schools.
Honestly.
Like that. Just show them other opportunities. Don't be like, it's either go to college or go to the workforce. Those aren't the only two options.
Yeah, because I specifically remembered like being stressed out in high school. Like, dude, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, and like they're not like they don't really show you different options. Like I figured that out as I got older. Like, oh, but like at the time it's like go to college or you're gonna be a fucking loser.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
those are the two options. That's what I'm saying. And now I feel like we're getting to an age where there's so many people that have gone the non-traditional routes, and that in turn opens up the door for people like me and you, or just shows people that, hey, there are other ways to do the stuff.
Well, not just other ways, but you could go to college still and still do things like this. Like because of social media and the internet now, if you have like a talent in something or just a hobby or a passion, like
or just like to talk,
yeah, you could literally do that. And like, you don't have to go to school for it. You could do it, And if you want to go to school for it too, I guess that,
Yeah, exactly. But to me, photography and videography is one of those things where it's almost every person that I know, like who does it, never went to school for it. And it's one of those few things that's like that, because you can self-teach yourself and be better than somebody who spends like $100,000 going to the best school for videography or anything.
Well, what do they? I feel like, what do they even teach you there? I mean, obviously they probably teach you every little technical thing, but also probably like the history of it.
The history, and I'm sure
that would probably be the only thing I'd be interested in.
Yeah, and like I'd be interested for like a class. Not 4 years of classes about this history, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they used to use film. Cool. I'm never going to use that.
All right.
Yeah.
Get it. I got it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, obviously you lose things. Like, I would like to learn like the whole darkroom process, and like film back in the day is pretty cool, because the day I had you on the podcast, my next podcast was one of my friend's mom's named Carol Womack, and she like got into photography during the 70s and then now uses the digital era. And so like her transformation of like, you used to take photos in the dark room, and then the way you'd edit those photos is like literally by burning them. So if you wanted so for me, like I take it into Lightroom and I make the bottom of my photos a little darker just to kind of like draw some contrast. And so back in the day, you'd like literally take like a little like a match or something, and you'd burn the bottom of your photos on the film to change how they would look when you put them like print them out on actual pictures.
Yeah,
so it's just like those things are cool and knowledgeable, but how much of that do I want to learn?
Do I want to pay money for
yeah,
this?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if I would have done it straight out of high school, I would have loved to. And I would have like, if anybody's interested in that and they want to do that straight out of high school, go ahead, do that. But it got to my point where I'm like, okay, well, I'm 25 or 24 trying to figure out what I want to major in. I'm just going to do whatever's the quickest. And that's why I decided on educational studies. It was just whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just do this, get my degree, and then figure it out from there.
What's your favorite like thing to like take videos of and do all that? Because like you do weddings, but you don't really like.
Yeah. So I don't mind doing videography for weddings. Like, they're fun, and I'll do them, gladly do them. But like passion projects are like, what I would like to do all the time, obviously. So me and my buddy Jimmy, we have this short Western film, and it's like a 3 minutes that we made for another film competition, but it's like a really, like, where Hornitos is?
Yeah.
And so the old cemetery at Hornitos, so we filmed it all there.
Okay.
And it's like this old Western. It's like me versus him, like standoff, and it's like a Mexican standoff, so there's like 3 of us, and like it's just it's fun passion projects that I like doing more. Other than that, like making nature videos, I like just doing stuff for myself.
Right.
Like, obviously that's like my favorite type of stuff to do. But then again, like music videos are the funnest to work on and to do, but it's also like I feel like most people who you're doing music videos for, maybe they're not as like got their stuff together or whatever, so it ends up being like a long drawn out process. Where like weddings, it's like you're showing up, you're getting a big chunk of change, and like
it's more structured.
Yeah, exactly. Where music videos are like all over the place, and so it's not the funnest sometimes. But music videos, and then I'm trying to think what else I like to work on. Just if I think of an idea, like pretty much. And my podcast, honestly, that's like I enjoy making my promos. Like, they're fun to make, but sometimes I'm like, wow, I spent 2 hours making that promo. So,
well, that's the ones you made when you sent them to me, like, they're dope, but I don't know if like I'd want to spend that much time doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Like the homeless one that I did.
Funny.
That was quick because it was like already there pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my other one of just like, I gave basically like a mini clips
Right.
of the podcast.
So you have to like go through the entire podcast.
Yeah, and sometimes like I'll go through and I'll just pick some like random ones, and then but if you notice like on ours it's like not in order, but it seems like it's in order.
Right.
Like, but it'll be like something that you said over here. I'm like, that fits better over here when you're explaining what your podcast is about.
Yeah.
Even though you're explaining at the end of my podcast,
Yeah.
it's like whatever. I'll put that right there.
It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean those are the passion projects and just things I like to work on.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of hiking?
Yeah. So I used to be like, I mean, I'm still into hiking. I haven't been hiking as much as I have in the past, but yeah, really into hiking. I backpack every year, backpack in different places, and so all over, honestly, all over.
You make videos and stuff like while you do that?
Yeah, so I have in the past, and then me and my buddy Jimmy, we did like this mini series, and we'd have like we probably have like 5 videos out, and it's just like either us in Yosemite, Calaveras, Big Tree State Park, just all these other places, and we did that little mini hiking show of like, what up, like my name is Micah, I'm Jimmy, and like I don't even know what we called our show, but so our name for us collectively is the Higher Grounds.
Okay.
And so that's like me, Jimmy, my buddy Duffy, and then our other buddy Daniel, but it's really like whoever's there that day is a part of it, it's not like specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we tons of, like I was telling you, like the Half Dome video I made. So it was like,
that was insane.
Yeah.
Did you talk about that on your podcast?
Yeah, on my podcast. Okay. So I'll talk about it here. So basically, I hiked Half Dome this past summer with my fiance, and I was looking for a video that takes you through the beginning to the end of Half Dome. And there was only like the shitty GoPro videos that everyone has. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring my camera, bring all my gear. We're backpacking, so I have time to rest. And I'd set up my camera, walk 20 yards, walk back, get my camera, set it up, walk 20 yards, walk back, get my camera. And so I took you from basically the beginning of the hike all the way to the top of Half Dome. And I was just inspired to do that because I've wanted to see a video like that. I couldn't see a video like that, so I was like, I'll just make a video. Granted, like, here we are, like, it took me like 2.5 months to even start editing it, just because like I knew how long of a process it would take to go through all that footage.
You
like,
weren't even mentally prepared.
Yeah, exactly. So finally edited and everything, but like it's like funny because like I felt like it would get more traction. It's like 300 views. It's like whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like it can get traction, but it's one of those things where I always look at my YouTube as like a long run, like in the long run thing. Yeah. I always you get caught up looking at views and episodes and everything like that, but in reality, it's like, do I like doing it? Am I having fun doing it? I'm going to continue to do it.
Right, exactly.
But you can always get in your head about this episode performed well, or this one's going to really perform really well, and then it doesn't, and then you're like in your head about it.
Yeah, looking at analytics.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, hey, like
this wasn't even the point of
exactly. But because you have access to the analytics. Yeah,
exactly.
But for you and like starting this podcast, I mean, we kind of talked about it on my show a little bit, but I mean, yours was kind of the same thing, community based, right?
Well, at first I just did like the one on my own. I had no idea. Like I'm gonna do this, and then I was actually wanting to just do it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, Chris D'Elia.
Yeah.
He has a Congratulations podcast. Does it by himself. I mean, he has like some people in the back, but he doesn't necessarily interact with them like that. But he does a whole hour by himself, and I think, dude, that's freaking like that's. When I did that one, I'm like, bro, I was on like 45 minutes, but he does like an hour a week. Like, that's pretty damn good, dude. To not have to talk to anyone and you're just talking.
They have the people in the background almost as like because they
kind of keeps them on track.
Yeah, exactly. Because they have like the producers or whoever it is, and he almost like looks at him like, right, or they'll even say something to him, and then he's like, oh yeah, and then he goes on a tangent about whatever it is.
So like, there's like It's by himself, but he does have someone to at least kind of look at or talk to or like get something small, or if he can't think of some, they tell him.
Mm-hmm.
But that actually what inspired me. Like, man, I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, and then, it was for your clothing brand, right? Was the idea of drawing more traffic?
Yeah, but also kind of just venturing out and maybe even just trying to be like my own like not necessarily like comedian, but just someone to just
I feel you,
like someone they listen to,
That's
like,
the same. I mean, about the same reason I started mine. It's like, obviously I wanted to do it for I started my podcast before I even knew what my podcast was.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that you have to like throw yourself in there, because until you start doing it, you don't know what your purpose or what your point is.
Exactly. Like, and people ask me like, well, like, why did you? I'm like, dude, I just did it.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty much the best way I can explain it. Then I started having friends on like the next one, because I'm like, maybe this would be a little easier with
Yeah.
somebody here. And then it just became like where people were hitting me up about it. Like, oh, I want to be on your podcast. And then I'd be like, okay. And then it got to here to where like I can get like not just my friends on, but
Yeah,
like,
you reach
people
out to
who are
other
actually,
people.
like doing stuff, and kind of built like kind of a somewhat respectable platform.
Yeah, you have a pretty good fan base though.
Yeah, I'm very, thankful, to be honest, people tuning in. And I also think the pandemic helped when nothing else was going on. There was no sports, no, I'll think before I drop something like on a day, like, man, is there like a playoff game on tonight, or like where people are like worried about.
You don't drop a set day, you kind of just drop whenever.
Yeah. Oh, I used to drop every Wednesday. But sometimes I would drop Tuesday, and sometimes I was doing like two like every week and a half when I first started. Like it wasn't even. I was just.
That's me too.
Excited. I was just like.
I'd have like three done, and then I'd like message Duffy, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna post for 10 days." I'd post a podcast on Monday and on Friday, and then I'm like, "Oh wait, now I have to get 2 podcasts recorded before like the next 2 weeks."
Yeah.
And so it's always a catching up process. Right now I'm lucky, so I have like the next 3 weeks, and then tomorrow I have 2 podcasts, and one of the podcasts is actually pretty cool. Have you heard of the podcast Knocking Doors Down? So they're 2 guys. It's Jason, who used to be on 92.5. Do you remember listening to 92.5 growing up? So it's him, and then I think Mikey used to be on 92.5 too. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. But they have a podcast called Knocking Doors Down, and they interview like Charlie Sheen, Bam Margera.
Actually, you know what?
You probably have seen it.
I saw the one where they did Bam.
Bam, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I was like, that's fucking insane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I just reached out to them because I know they're local, and I was like, hey, would you guys want to be on my podcast? So I'm having them on
awesome, dude.
Tomorrow, and then I'm also having a city council person in the evening time.
Nice. You were talking about trying to get the mayor on.
Yeah.
Have you reached out yet?
No, because I feel like I can. You know what I mean? So it's like I want to be ready. Yeah, and I already have, like, trying to think. And then I have, you know who Liquor Store Videos is?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm getting him on my podcast.
Yeah, he had his shit deleted.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty sad about that, obviously, for my sake. But he's such a funny guy. And, like, I mean, like, our conversation about homeless people, like, goes perfectly with what, like, he does. Like,
there's, like, he, like, made some of them, like, well-known around the city.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's the lady from Liquor Store.
Yeah, exactly,
always
exactly.
showing her titties and shit. Like,
yeah. And he's always, like, hitting on him.
Yeah.
And that shit's hella funny. So I have, like, a couple of those lined up, which I'm excited about, because it kind of seems like I've got momentum. Like, I'm trying to think of the first one. The Weed Nuns, I think, was the first one where I was like, whoa. Like
that's
like out there.
It's not your everyday.
Yeah,
person,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's someone who like is actually like known and stuff. And so, I mean, I don't know. Like it's cool. 'Cause, like you're saying, you get to a certain point where like people have reached out to me. You know what I mean? And sometimes I gotta be like, yeah, I'm pretty booked up for the next 6 months. And then it's like the week up. I'm like, I need to get something on my podcast now.
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes, honestly. Like, and then some of my earlier ones for like a filler, just to get something out, I would do it by myself, or like I would wake my brother up, like, hey, just come on here and we'll just figure it out on the way.
Yeah.
Just like, all right, well, let me like get dressed real quick, and then we would just do it. So because I have like 3 with my brother. The first one was because he wanted to come on. The other ones were because I told him to come on.
You're like, hey, I need somebody.
Yeah, but they all came out pretty good. It was just to keep content going.
Yeah, really. Just have something to post, and that's like me too. Like when I was like transitioning from a studio at my house to the new studio, it was like, okay, well, I needed 2 weeks worth of stuff. So then I called this one guy named Deshaun. I was like, hey, can you come on my podcast? And then my fiance, I was like, literally had to move like the next week, and I was like, hey, you're gonna be on the podcast. And she was just like, oh, you bring me here, not even the new studio? I was like, I was doing like a Farewell podcast. She was like, I want to be here on the new studio. And I was like, damn. Like, and she was like talking shit about things in Merced. I'm like, hey, my whole podcast is about the Central Valley.
She's just in there shit.
Yeah.
Mainly because she could get away with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you ever thought about like getting your dad on there, or have you not?
Oh, I have. I had my parents on there. I had my mom
yeah.
and dad, but yeah, I had both of them on there. It was like me. It was my 4-person podcast. Let me tell you, that's a little more hectic.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if somebody's talking, it's so hard.
Like everyone on the mic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I had both my parents on. And it's the episode that's in the best. I'm like, are you serious? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just because like I realize that older people have like a bigger crowd almost. Like, all their friends will like sit down and watch YouTube videos, where it's like our generation's like, there's
there's
so much
an abundance,
content going on. So my best bet is making those short snippets to at least have people watching those. You know what I mean? But then I had this dude reach out to me, and he followed me, and then I followed him back. I didn't know he was from the Central Valley, and he just goes diving with great white sharks all the freaking time. He goes whale watching. He'll like be in the cage with
Nice.
and stuff. And then he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey man, how do I be on your show?" He's like, "I've always wanted to do a podcast." And I was like, "Oh, I mean, like I live like in the center of California, and all his pages like sharks, so I assume like he's by the ocean. You know what I mean?
Like minimum at like Santa Cruz."
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I mean, I'm in the center of California, so I don't know like where you're located. And he's like, "No, bro, I'm from Tracy." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, let's get you on the podcast, man. December, like we'll do it."
Yeah.
And so that's real cool to me. And I want to start you're like, what do I like to film? Sorry, going back to that, but I want to start this like mini documentary series called the Central Valley Project, and it's just gonna be like a little intro explaining like Central Valley, what it is, and then each time it kind of focuses on a different individual.
Okay.
So it'd be like, and I want to ask him 3 basic questions of like who you are, what you're passionate about, and what impact you hope you have on people. And then with that, kind of just use other things from the day I spend with that person and fill it in for like, like a 3 to 5 minute little mini documentary series. But there's no media coming out of the Central Valley, or like there is, but it's hard to find. And so I want to make something more abundant, basically, more in your face. Like the Central Valley Project sounds like that's in your face. It's Central Valley. So if you're from the Central Valley, you might want to tune in to it.
Right. Well, it doesn't seem, it is like you're very focused on that. And I actually like where you're going with it, with this whole thing, because you're, I know we were talking like analytics stuff, and like it gets discouraging at times.
Yeah.
But to be honest, like what you're doing, like you're building your catalog, and the people you have on are like you said, like you have your friends on and stuff, but you're starting to get like some like more known people, that everyone kind of knows, like in the area.
Yeah, exactly.
And then with what you're doing with that, like that's just awesome, man.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It really is gonna, like, I really think that you're gonna be somebody who like everyone is gonna like, for the most part, know or have heard of at
Thanks,
one
man.
point.
I appreciate
because
that
of
a lot.
like how you're starting it out.
Yeah,
and stuff.
it's
because
like
really just got to get the roots, and then you're already going from there.
Yeah, exactly. And the podcast opened up more opportunities for me than I ever thought.
Same
You know what I mean? Like,
it's crazy.
You go into it, you don't really think of like the opportunity it's gonna make, but like so many people I met just through my podcast that I consider good friends, and it's just cool like talking to all these people and just hearing their stories. And I said it on my podcast, and I always do, but I'll say it here, like every time I sit down with somebody, you have like this conversation with them, and at the end of the day, most of the people I have conversations with my podcast are from the Central Valley, and they're trying to do something for the Central Valley too. And so it kind of recharges me and reassures me why I'm choosing to do what I'm choosing to do.
Right.
And then like I'm saying, like my little mini documentary series that I want to start, that's inspired from my podcast. And there's so many other opportunities where it's just like working for clients. Like I have somebody on my podcast, they're gonna probably choose me to work with if it's videography or photography, because we just sat down for an hour and talked, versus another company that like maybe cheaper or maybe a little more professional, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's like my work speaks for itself. So if you don't want to book me, don't book me. But I'm confident in my work, so it's whatever. And it's funny because people have like all these huge cameras and rigs, and it's like, I mean, my camera's like a really nice camera and everything, but it's still not like what Hollywood's using or what other people, but you can get the same quality with it.
Yeah.
And so
like we're recording on my fucking iPhone.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole nother story.
That's a whole nother story, huh?
Yeah. But no, dude, that's awesome, man. It's just it's inspiring. And like you're right, there's what the funniest thing or the craziest thing about it is how many people like you and I have met and like became friends with, and it just was like just started like an idea, like let's just talk, like just simply having conversation.
Yeah.
Like going back to like the earliest forms of news.
Yeah, exactly. Just people talking
to people. And I think I brought up on yours about how I've realized like how difficult it is like for a lot of people to even have a simple conversation.
Yeah, like eye to eye, looking at people. Yeah. It's a lot harder than, because we're used to looking down on your phone over and over. But if I'm watching a TV show or a movie at home, I'm not giving it my full attention. You know what I mean?
Or even like I've seen like jokes on like Twitter about like when someone calls you versus texts you, And it's like, they're like,
dude, I still
like,
get anxiety.
why are you calling me?
Yeah.
You know, like, that's a real thing. Like, that's what it's become.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like, I mean, you probably feel the same way, but like, we both have podcasts and everything, but at the same time, like, I'll get a phone call and I don't know the number and it's a 209 number. I'm like, I'm not answering this. Like, I refuse to. It's like, it could be somebody asking for my services and stuff.
Exactly.
But there's like so many fake calls that do 209 now too that I'm like, if they're important, they'll leave a message.
Exactly. That's exactly what I say. If they're important, they'll leave a message.
If not, whatever. It's the opportunity I missed out on, or it's a spam caller. But I was gonna say what I really like is that you have a podcast, all about, just about talented people around you. You know what I mean? And the cool thing I think about my podcast is the same exact thing, basically. You know what I mean? A similar formats, but we haven't had any guests that cross over. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's kind of cool in the sense of like,
there's a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there, and your whole. I didn't even know like your podcast existed until my buddy was like, "Hey, do you know who this Mulberry Dreams guy is?" And then that's when pretty soon after that I messaged you. I was like, "Hey, man, like I love seeing other people who have podcasts in the area because it interests me, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do shit? How do I do shit? What's different? What's the same?"
Right.
And so there's this other guy in Los Banos too, and those are like the only main ones that I know is like mine, yours, and his. And I've reached out. I want there to be as many outlets as there can, if it be for the Central Valley or for whoever. And I like yours because yours is like, maybe it's not specifically Central Valley, but it's just a community base of
whoever's tuning in.
Yeah, whoever's tuning in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because that's how like a lot of like the comedian podcasters do. Like, they're from everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's just the
I know, dude. I'm like, man.
From everywhere. They're like, "Oh, hi from Poland. Like, been watching you for 8 years." It's like, damn, dude.
And then you're getting like 100,000 per episode. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah. And then you really look at it, and like Theo Von talked about literally nothing.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm like, I mean, you're getting however much money from YouTube,
but it inspires me. Like, bro, I could do that if I like work on it. I mean, obviously you got to get there, but I like yours because it's more professional looking than mine. Mine's more like we're at fucking home chilling.
Yeah, we're just chilling at home.
Beer.
Yeah,
but that was kind of my premise of it. I didn't want it to be like too like necessarily professional looking, professional sounding.
Yeah,
and, like, quality professional, but like the look. And like I said, I'll go to someone's fucking garage and set up.
Yeah.
And we can talk in there, and like, they want to smoke or whatever. Cool, let them do them. But I like that. Like, I can do that.
Yeah. And mine, I
also like your setup.
Yeah, I like my setup because it's one of those things where I impress myself. Like my studio at my house, I'm not like the best interior decorator or anything, but like I just kind of like threw up some stuff, and then I kept on getting comments like, "Bro, your studio looks so nice. Your studio looks so nice." And I was like, "Wow, like, thank you, man." And then I kind of just kept adding to it. And I kind of feel like, yeah, it's my podcast, but I don't know what's going on. Like, it just keeps going, and I'm just here to keep making it and editing it. And Duffy's right there editing it too. And it's just like we know we have momentum, we know how we stuff going on, but we don't know the end game of it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what's cool.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about it.
Like, I don't have a goal necessarily besides to grow.
Well, what's discouraging for me about moving is like I'm gonna have to start over, and essentially with people, because like you said, we haven't overlapped not once with guests. And there's a lot more people who I could interview, and same with you. And I'm going to kind of have to start that over when I get out there. I'm not really necessarily worried about it, because I'm also kind of excited about it, because once I do get certain people on, maybe someone who's like well known around there or whatever, when it gets promoted and like maybe they put it out or share it, that's 100% new eyes.
Yeah.
Who watch.
Well, and I was going to say, what you got to do out there, so is it Tennessee? Is that where you're moving? So, I mean, even like the beauty of hashtags and everything else is like, hashtag Tennessee podcast or whatever, you know what I mean? It's just, yeah, I know what you're saying. It's going to be harder when you're first over there, because it's kind of like, well, now what?
Right.
But it's also a new area. All you got to do is, meet a couple people. And and then just go from there. And like I said, my family's already there and kind of established. And you're going to meet your family's friends and stuff. You know what I mean? You're going to meet people, and you could be like, what do you do? Like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I can have you on my podcast. Yeah.
But also doing all these with my friends has, like, I've been able to have a conversation with a stranger that maybe I don't know anything about, and we can talk at least for 45 minutes at, like, the minimum. And because, like, my first guest that I had on who I didn't know at all, think it was like 36 minutes long. I just was like, this is hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
Because I don't have anything that I can, like, if I run out of current stuff, like, maybe I can bring something back, like a funny story or something, and then, like, it kind of sparks more conversation. Like,
yeah.
There's none of that. So it's like, you have to figure out, at least, I try to give myself, like, 3 to 5, like, big questions. And hopefully, if they give me enough back, we can, like, extend from that. So I don't run through my questions in 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, well, thanks.
Do you ever, like, have actual questions, like, written out, or you just kind of think of them ahead of time?
I would write them out, and then I would, like, kind of just, like, look at them before I started, but I would, like, just try to remember them. Actually, the only time I had anything written out was on my own.
Yeah, that makes sense,
because like I just had, like, a bunch of notes that I would just go over. Like, but other people, because I just want it to be as organic as possible and not like an interview.
Yeah.
It's a conversation versus an interview. You know what I'm saying?
That's what changed about my podcast. In the beginning, I had, the questions, and I would just run down the list of, like, music artists. Like, what inspired you? If you could be a front row at any concert, what would it be? Like, it was just kind of typical questions. And then I kind of stopped liking that format because I would be like, and then, and so, and next question, and I didn't want
it was a little more like robotic.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just wanted it to be, like, more natural. So now I just have my list of questions, and then I kind of just pick and choose, okay, where does this one kind of fit at? If we're talking about this, I can kind of sneak that one in. And now I just abruptly will ask a question. You know what I mean? I'd rather do that because it seems like I'm just, if you're listening to it, it's just top of my head, like, what's going on or whatever.
Yeah, like, most of my podcasts are like that. People are like, what are we gonna talk about? I'm like, we'll figure it out. It'll work out. You know? So then we just start talking, and then, But yeah, it's kind of sometimes gets like, you'll be talking, and I'm sitting here like, okay, what the fuck am I gonna say?
Yeah.
It
kind of gets
like, I'm not even
head.
listening.
Yeah.
And then like they'll stop talking, and I'll just be like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
Yeah, exactly. That's why, like, for you, dude, for me and you, like, it's pretty chill talking. Like,
I know. That's why when we first met and, like, we were just, like, talking whatever, I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy.
Yeah, it's going to be chill. It's not.
And then that's why I do just, like, when you come over, like, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll figure out the same stuff to talk about.
Yeah. But,
what's something from your podcast that, like, you didn't expect? Like, did you, anything that...
was meeting so many people.
Yeah.
And people, like, not just meeting people, but, like, becoming friends with people that, like, I would have never met or ever talked to, and now it's like I see them and it's like, what's up, dude? And it's all solely because of this podcast. That's it.
Before I started my podcast, I was like, I guess you just don't make any friends, like, after you're a certain age. Like, I guess you just stop making friends, like, because, like, I knew the people I knew, and that was it.
Right.
And then when I started my podcast, I was like, oh, like, I feel like I'm, like, meeting so many friends and, like, meeting so many new people.
Well, you got to think about, like, what do people do here in the Valley, like, for fun? Like, when we were younger, it was really, like, maybe house parties. Like, that's pretty
and
much
then
it.
just doing, like, running around, like, back of the lake. Just, you know what I mean? Just,
so, like, when we get older and, like, we're done with school and, like, now everyone's working, you kind of maybe just know who you know from work. And then, like, that's kind of really the only outlet. And then, like, the bars. But to be honest, I don't think I've ever... There's maybe a couple people that I, like, just started talking to at a bar and, like, became friends with. Usually I go with my buddies and we just chill.
Yeah, you hang out with each other.
And then, like, we're just, like, bullshitting. And it's really, like, you're not really interacting with, like, anyone else for the most part.
Yeah.
So I guess putting yourself out there like this, everyone is kind of doing the same thing, like, beforehand, just working. And like you said, falling into that groove a little bit. So this, like, helps with, like, getting other people to, like, see you and know you,
and having a podcast is kind of vulnerable too, in the sense
it really is
of me. When you listen back to yourself, or me or you, like, I always say, like, you know what I mean, and it pisses me off. I don't know how to stop it, you know what I mean? I've looked up so many things online, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm not gonna pinch myself every single time I say, like, but
well, I would say, I think
I go and stuff like that. I say that too. Like, what?
Just like these
filler words.
Well, and I hear it in another podcasts I listen to now, like, with, like, people who come on and interview. Like, a lot of times, like, because I watch the No Jumper podcast a lot.
Which one's that one?
With Adam 22. He's from LA. He interviews.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about, actually.
Yeah, like, tall white dude.
Yeah, exactly. Tattoos, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He'll have a music artist on, and, like, they don't know how to talk at all, or they'll say the same thing, like, you know what I'm saying? Like after like every third or fourth word. And it's like, and then you'll go in the comments and someone will just put, "No, I'm saying it," like, because they're like, okay, I'm not the only one.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
is like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So I've like tried to see that and listen to that, and then not do that.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
it's hard though, and it's one of those things where you can get hung up on that stuff, and like maybe you want to try to edit it out or do whatever, but at the end of the day, you're noticing it more than other people, and if other people are, it's whatever. Right. It's one episode. You can fix it. You can get better. And being a host is kind of like an interesting thing because people say like, "Oh, you're a good host," and I'm like, "Thanks," but I don't know. I don't even know the first thing about being a good host. You know what I mean? I just do what I do. Like I'm just me, and so I guess you just like me at the end of the day.
One thing I have grown to not do as much is cuss as much. When I first started, I just didn't care. I was a sailor mouth, but then I would feel embarrassed. Honestly, like I'd go back and listen. I'm like, dude, I'm like cringing myself. So like I would cut some of the parts out because like, you know, I'd be drinking or whatever, and then I'd just start like cussing, and like it doesn't seem bad, like as bad when we're talking, because it's probably not. But when you go back and listen, for me, I was like, yeah, I gotta like chill out on that, like try to be more professional.
Well, when you're
more professional.
When you're
I should just start cussing again.
Yeah, well, when you're with your homies, I realize like if I'm with one of my buddies, I am cussing up a storm on that podcast. Yeah, everyone's
like watching, like, who are you?
Yeah,
like,
and then like I have somebody who, you know, is an adult. I mean, I'm an adult, but you know what I mean? Sure. An older person, and like you can tell like I'm way more reserved. And so it's interesting to see like those differences.
But you know, that's good too. It shows like it shows
personable. You're being personable to whoever your guest is. You're trying to make them. But then it's also my friends who have been on my podcast who are like, damn, like I didn't know I cussed that much. I'm like, you cuss that much because you're with me, though. Like, you're thinking you're just having conversation with me, but you're also forgetting.
Like, it's on YouTube now.
It's like recorded, yeah. Because, and then what I was telling you, or I was like, what's something that you thought, like, a direction that went with your podcast that you didn't think of? For me, it was like me having on so many rappers. Like, I didn't think that I was going to have, like, all these rappers on. And then I got to one point where it's like, oh, like, I've had like 10 rappers on, and out of like my
you're becoming the no jumper of Central Valley,
which I like it. I like having them. It's just that there's so many rappers in the valley that it's like I gotta pick and choose, kinda. And like it's not that I'm saying no to someone to be disrespectful. It's just like, hey, like
you're trying to build a portfolio.
Of like broad portfolio. Yeah, exactly. And there's a couple rappers in the area that I like want to get on. Have you ever heard of this guy named Don Quez?
I have, actually.
Dude, he is sick. He's from Stockton, and I just recently found him, but
I haven't listened to but I've seen his name.
Yeah, because they're on the Thizzler has been they're the Bay Area, like.
But they've been getting a lot of people.
From like Stockton and Central Valley, and so that's what really cool to me that they've been putting on for because it's like Bay Area, but they'll have like Stockton people.
Because there's a lot of Bay influence. Like,
exactly, and that's like a whole thing I talk about on my podcast is. Why do we have a lack of like shows in the Central Valley when you can go wherever else and there's plenty of shows for their local artists? But here it's like we're starting to get more like the Manger's putting on some more stuff, but not rap wise.
But honestly, if you get a pretty big Bay Area rapper come to Merced, like it'll fill up.
Oh, exactly.
Because they're like mostly everyone like who listens to rap music has at one point like listen to Bay Area music here, you know. And there's a lot of like fans, like we've all been to concerts like in San Francisco or Oakland and stuff, but like they don't come here.
Exactly. And that's I'm like I think what you have to do to start that is have local shows in reality. You got to have your local rappers, and like there are places that do it, but once again it's not like opened up, not all ages, but it's just like nightclub vibe type scenes. It's not like this is a concert type scene.
Well, also when there are concerts here, like if bad shit happens after, or it's not gonna work out.
Yeah,
because you know how it gets around here sometimes, and it's like shit gets ruined.
I'm just kidding.
No, seriously, like shit gets ruined because of that, you know. And then it's like everyone complains, how come we can't have no cool shit in Merced? Well, that's probably why. It's one reason.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but
it's like we don't deserve it. That's why.
The thing I do like about
this community,
the city though, so far is that they actually have been putting like obviously they were revamping downtown, but there's like some streets that like used to be like more ghetto that like they're redoing and everything, and I like that they're putting efforts on the right side of the freeway just as much as on the left side of the freeway. You know what I mean? Because for a while it was like anything like
go left,
Yosemite or like that whole area, like we're gonna put good stuff over there by the UC. But now it's like, you know, a little bit everywhere.
Yeah. Because I remember seeing this funny tweet because everyone was bitching about we don't have a Chick-fil-A here.
Oh, I saw
this. And this one guy tweeted, he's like, you know why? He's like, who's going to work at the Chick-fil-A? Who's nice enough in Merced that's going to be able to work there? Like,
it was like, y'all already ruined Popeyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we don't need to ruin Chick-fil-A.
He's like, I love Merced, but he's like, let's be real here.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And that was kind of an eye-opener. Like, damn, at least we could be honest with ourselves as a community.
Yeah.
So
you just got to get whoever's working at In-N-Out, though. Just steal all those workers.
My brother works there, yeah.
He's a nice guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got In-N-Out way too much.
Dude, me too. But they get paid well.
Yeah, I saw that. It was like starting rate $17 an hour.
Yeah, my brother makes like over $20 an hour, and he flips burgers. Like, but they're a private business, and you know.
Yeah.
So if they ever franchise that out, it would just kill In-N-Out.
But they're pretty. I mean, yeah, they're private, but they're private, but they have enough stores to be a franchise. You know what I mean? Now,
that's true.
Like now, they have like a lot of stores.
You know that chick? It's like her dad and uncle or son, like, or grandpa and uncle, like, gave her the company. So it's like a lady who's.
Oh really?
Yeah, from the family. Like, oh, my grandpa gave me In-N-Out. You know, like. That she owns the business. She's like a billionaire. She's been abducted like twice.
What?
Like held for ransom. And then escaped on her own like both times.
I didn't get this chick on my podcast.
Dude, I don't know where. I don't think she.
Yeah.
No one knows where she lives now. But,
yeah.
But yeah, dude, that's pretty crazy. Like my.
Dang.
Yeah, my brother like knows all that stuff because like
having a Christian company, man.
Honestly. But, dude, I appreciate you coming on.
Dude, yeah, it's cool. I love being new places or new podcasts. Just different environment, different. Just the way that you do things, you know what I mean? It's interesting for me to see. And then I'm just glad that we got to link up before you moved away. And it's like perfect timing just with literally like the last 2 weeks you're here. You came on my podcast, I came on your podcast.
Yeah, we made it work. This is what sucks is like about moving because like we just met, you know, it's super cool. Like we're going to be friends, you know, all that. But like I always think like, a lot of other people around here, like that could happen too if I stayed.
Yeah.
But then again, I'll be okay wherever I go.
Yeah, it's new opportunities, and I mean, there's always gonna be. It's like FOMO, fear of missing out. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But when I come back, I'm gonna come back. I want to try to come back like at least twice a year, and when I do, like have people come
something
on.
Like lined up.
Yeah.
Because you could, if just a day of podcasting, you know what I mean? You could knock out 3-4 episodes.
Yeah. Honestly,
we can knock out more, but how much do you really want to talk in one day? Because when I do 2 episodes back to back, I'm always like
it's
nervous.
Probably exhausting.
I'm nervous about like saying the same stuff. But granted, if they're so different, if there's like 2 different people who do 2 different things, it's whatever.
And it's not dropping the same day.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's dropping weeks apart. I do always try though. I'll like if I'm wearing the sweatshirt, I'll just take it off for the next podcast. So that yeah,
Put a different hat on.
Exactly. Wear it backwards, whatever.
Yeah.
Switch it up.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, like, do you have anything like big in the future, or you're just kind of going along with this?
Yeah, going along. I'm getting married in 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I mean that's been coming along in my actual personal life. Yeah. That's for sure. It's my Duffy was he was like, "How you feel, man? You got married in 19 days," and like that was the first time it hit me, and I was like, whew.
Like, we've been so busy.
Yeah, exactly. Just go. Yeah, and then I kind of realized like, oh, it's coming down to the wire. So I got my wedding coming up. Other than that, me and my buddy Jimmy, we're gonna work on another short film. It's gonna be like kind of Scarface 70s type of style. So yeah, eventually we're gonna be releasing that. But other than that, that's all I really got going on is just my podcast, you know what I mean? Real Talk and Whatnot, you guys, I'm going to promote it right now. Absolutely. So just Real Talk, the and symbol, Whatnot. Whatnot is one word. I didn't know Whatnot was one word until I decided to name my podcast that.
Really? That's one word?
Whatnot. Yeah, Whatnot is one word. Yeah, you wouldn't think it would be. So if you're trying to look it up, Real Talk and Whatnot, and then on Instagram, Micah, Micah.Diele, Diele. So Micah.Diele is my handle, and that's where I post like all my podcast stuff and all my photography, videography work. Like I wanted to separate it at one point, and then I was like, fuck it, I'll just keep it all together. Like this is me, and I want to like not to bite, but like I want to like do my own brand thing with Real Talk, like have Real Talk merch basically.
Yeah, dude,
you know what I mean?
Just embody it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I want to get like some dad caps first rolling out, and slowly but surely, it's just all money pit though. So you know,
definitely.
you feel like your hobby is just you're paying for your hobby, but
Yeah. I'm gonna have all your description, like in the description.
oh,
below,
cool. Yeah, and I have my website, just micahdiele.com and everything too. And so if you want to become a guest, there's a little form you could fill out there, or you could reach out to me. I was actually looking through.
You got forms, dude?
Well, it's like if you go to my website, it's like want to be a guest, and you could fill out something right there.
Cool.
No one's ever done it, but it looks professional.
Yeah, it does.
It was, wow, like this guy is like really got his shit together. But it's funny because the other day I was like looking through all your podcasts of like who I could have on my podcast as guests, just because I'm like, and I'll talk to you after the show.
Yeah, there's
people you
people,
recommend.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because it's interesting just to talk to people, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But dude, thank you again, man.
Of
this
course.
has been a fun experience.
Yeah.
Even coming on your podcast.
Yeah,
was
it's been
super
a fun couple weeks of just letting stuff happen.
Yeah, most definitely. But this is the Mulberry podcast, and we'll see you guys
later.
Mulberry.